Alright, it's been a while, and a lot of people have been wondering what's going on with this thing, but we had some machining to do. Mike wanted to do a little modification to the head over the summer, and during the summer we got some, matter of fact, Mike's right there.
How you doing?
And over the summer we don't do any machining or anything like that because we just don't have the time with our shows and stuff, so Mike finally got all modifications he wants done, and we're ready to continue on here. And there's one thing that I have to do, and we'll get everybody put that where they belong.
Have to move that a little
Right,
bit.
we got the holes here, and I don't know if you see here, but there's little grooves I cut out.
Right, clearance for
that, and there is no clearance on the head yet. I marked it out, but all I have to do is get a file and probably indent it maybe a 1/16 of an inch or a little bit. But anyway, we really can't do anything until I do that, and that's probably going to take an hour or so. But since I got Mike here, we're going to mock it up and we're going to see what we can do about the valves.
Mm-hmm.
And we bounce stuff off each other before we come up with a conclusion. And so far, this is what we got. We're going to put 3 bolts here in the front, and then Mike came up with this idea, and I like it.
Right.
He wants to put studs in the back here to hold the valves. And
right, so we're gonna have like a stud threaded into the block, running up through the head, and then we're just gonna use these little coupler nuts for mock-up right now. These are 5/16 coupling nuts. So what we're gonna have is these nuts thread onto the stud, lock it down, and then whatever mechanism we have to hold the rocker is just gonna bolt into the other side of the coupling nut.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be, a pivot point somewhere, in this vicinity, halfway between the push rods and the valve stems. So we have a 1-to-1, valve travel ratio there. So it'll have the original valve travel as it did, when it was from the factory. So we're going to maintain that. And then, got to fabricate some rocker arms.
yeah, and there's going to be a slight bend to the rocker arms. I mean, it's not just going to be a regular rocker arm, but it shouldn't be too much.
Yeah, it'll be very slight.
And even them standoffs Mike is using there, that's only for mock-up. We're probably going to use this 5/16 hex. So
Yeah.
That's where we're at. We're going to keep bouncing some stuff off of there, and if we come up with something interesting or something different, we'll mention it to you. All right. Let's do some work, buddy.
Right.
All right, me and Mike have been bouncing some ideas off each other for, I guess, about a half hour. I think that's the best part of the build for me, Mike, is bouncing shit off each other.
Yeah, it does. You come up with some pretty nifty plans here.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who comes up with the first one, but it usually bounces off us about 5 times. And this is what we started with, and this is completely obsolete already. This is what Mike came up with. That's what I came up with. And then, by the end of it, neither one of these is any good.
No.
But show them what we did come up with. This is brilliant.
Okay, so what we're going to have on top of the head here, if you can kind of picture it, is almost a semicircle. We're going to use a piece of brass plate. It's going to kind of be formed a little bit, I'm not very good at drawing here, formed a little bit around the contour of the valves here. And then it's going to come to the edge of the head, and then be cut nice and flush with the outer diameter or the outer circumference of the head here. It's probably going to end up being like 3/16 or a 1/4 inch thick, a piece of brass plate.
Right? That way we don't compromise our head in any way.
Right, it's going to be strictly a bolt-on thing. It's going to be held down with these 2 head bolts. So, and then to support the rocker arm shaft, we had some of this 1/2 inch brass hex stock. We're going to silver solder a piece of that brass hex stock right to the dead center of that plate, more or less. So when I say dead center, I mean dead center between the valve stems here, and also dead center between the valve stem and the push rod, because we want a 1-to-1 ratio with the upward travel of the push rod and the downward travel of the valve. So the pedestal, I guess I'm taking to calling it, is going to be a little bit offset from the head bolts, but that really doesn't matter. So anyway, that's going to be pressed into that plate and then silver soldered in. And then from that point, we're going to determine what the height needs to be. We're going to cut it. I'm just going to use this valve here as a kind of a demonstration, but I'm going to cut it, drill through that piece of brass, probably a piece of 1/4-inch steel rod, slide that piece of steel rod through, and then secure it with a single set screw in the top of that hex brass. So it's going to drive down into that pin, keep it from moving and keep it from rotating. On that pin...
Well, get this out of the way and use this little one.
What's that? Oh, okay, there you go.
That way you get a better idea.
Yeah, visualize what's going to happen here.
Right.
So you're going to have something like that.
That's going to go through the...
Right. Through that, and then be held in with a set screw. And then your rocker arms are going to pivot on this shaft here. And then they're going to be secured onto the shaft with a cotter pin on each end.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot less work, and it's going to look a lot better. And I think it was well worth the hour we took to figure it out.
Yeah, I like the single pedestal idea rather than the long shaft held on each bolt.
Right.
You know, I like that better.
And then, like Mike said, it's going to go through the hex here.
Right, through that.
And we'll probably round off this, dress it up, round it off, and then countersink a bolt, a small Allen screw, to hold that pin in place. So that's where we're at here. So now we can't go any further right now with this until I get a brass plate. But maybe we'll mess around and see. Where's the carburetor, Mike?
Well, this is what we're going to use here. This is something off a Briggs Model Y, one of these little suction carburetors, which I think is going to end up somewhere in this area here.
Okay.
Maybe about like that.
So that actually has bolt holes in the side, right?
Well, yeah, it's got, you
two bolt holes.
Like a number 10 screw or something.
And we just have to figure out a way to fix it. Maybe just screw bolt
yeah,
cap and thread the case.
Well, yeah, exactly. We could thread the case. There's probably a good 3/16 of thickness there, enough for a 1032 to bite in. So, and it's going to have to be spaced off of the block a little bit because this is the intake port where it's got to meet. So
you're going to need the room to bend.
Nice bend, right?
Okay.
And then this here comes up at an angle as well. So.
Okay. So that should work out well. All right, so that's where we're at. We're going to dick around with this a little bit more before we close it out, and we'll see what we come up with. Oh, you know what? Guess who showed up?
The tubes.
Yeah, and put the phone down. There you go. You know, somebody said called you Daddy Cell Phone instead of Daddy Dirt Bike. That made me laugh. All right, we got some work to do. All right, yeah, Mike is. He's got the brass tube in here that we're going to put the carburetor on. Where's the carburetor, Mike?
Well, we're going to have to make a support bracket.
For that, and it goes all the way down
it's
here.
Be out here.
And
fuel tank's going to sit down here as well. So it's going to have to be. There's going to be a lot of weight on this.
It will.
We have to reinforce.
Going to have to make an extra long cart for this one too.
Yeah, right.
All right. Yeah, I like that. Whoops! I almost fell off. Grab that, buddy.
Let me get this. So really, what we're going to do is. This was just a. Kind of, we had this.
We're just goofing. We're goofing on you.
So, but yeah, the carb is going to end up. So there's going to have to be a couple bends here. One is going to have a slight bend here to bring it out straight, and then a nice sharp 90 to come down, or maybe a little bit less than a 90.
Right.
A little bit less because this is going to come up at an angle here.
Unless we tilted the carb, would that work?
You could do that.
I think it would, yeah.
You could do that.
Huh. I love bouncing shit off you, buddy.
Oh man.
Okay, so that's where we're at. Problem is we don't have a tube bender for this right now. What size is that? That's probably a 3/8. I only got a 5/16.
Well, the OD is strange. That might be a 7/16 outer diameter. Yeah. Let me. Actually, you know what? I think that's right because I reamed this hole here to 7/16, and you can see how good of how nice of a fit that is. You got to get it perfectly lined up, and you know.
There you go. It ain't gonna leak.
So 7/16 OD tube.
We might have to fill this with sand or ice or something.
Right, in order to bend it. Yeah, it's got a thick wall. If I can get it back out, I'll show you. There you go. You see the thick wall on that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna be tough to bend.
So.
All right.
We've done it before.
Yeah, we did it. We did it on. I don't remember how I did it on the old FHs.
Right.
So. All right. I don't think there's much more we can do tonight, buddy.
No, we gotta
So
get that piece of plate, the brass plate.
the next video, you'll probably see me making this plate, and I don't know, maybe trying to bend that copper or that brass. That's actually brass.
Yep.
So what do you say we call this one, buddy?
I call it good.
All right. Enough of this.
Enough of this. Enough of this.
All right. See you guys later.